everyone, I'm Edyta Sitar from Laundry Basket Quilts. Welcome to Quilting Window. Today, I love to share with you a beautiful project from our Little Quilts Club called Rylan. Look at this cutie. For the last few months, we have been making a beautiful little quilt through our Little Quilts Club. For anybody that don't know what that is, it's a subscription that you can join in on our website at laundrybasketquilts.com. We every month provide our customers with a beautiful box or bag with beautiful fabrics. Some of them are pre-cut, some of them you have to cut, and pattern. And every month we make a little quilt for a display, for a wall, for a table, and learn a brand new technique or new block. Last few months, oh girls and guys, we had so much fun. We have done applique, we have done piecing. This month, Rylan, I want to introduce you to a fun little star and play with you with some little four patches in the middle of that quilt. This is so exciting. And just like always, I wanted to remind you, if you have your eyes set on a beautiful big quilt and you're just not sure if you can handle, or maybe you want to learn the technique before, little quilts are perfect for that. And this quilt that I just showed you, Rylan, is inspired by antique quilt that I saw it in a Grand Rapids Public Museum, and I thought I need to try this. So I drafted the pattern for the little star and a center and went right to work on piecing and learning before I commit to a beautiful big quilt. So you're gonna open your kit for anybody that is getting the kit, and I just want to remind everyone else the pattern is only available through our Little Quilts Club. Some of the patterns for our Little Quilts Club are also available in our excuse me, are also available in our Little Handful of Scraps book. And Rylan, this one is also available in the book. So it's available through Little Quilts Club and our beautiful book, Little Handful of Scraps. Once you open your kit, you're gonna pull all the fabrics, and we have sorted them out for you. Those squares are for your four patches. You have dark squares and light squares. In the pattern, it gives you all the fabric requirements and cutting directions. Then you have a light fabric and a blue teal fabric for your little stars for the borders. We're gonna set them to the side. In the bottom of your package, clearly marked is binding and backing. We include everything for you. I'm going to set those fabric to the side because my first step, I'm gonna start with my little four patches. I'm gonna create a little beautiful nice four patches. For four patches, you need a one dark and one light. You can go through your fabric and match them up, or you can just go ahead and put them together. It's gonna look beautiful. I paid attention to the color and make sure that everything was really nice. All that you have to do, I right away put them right sides together before I start cutting, because then I already have pairs for my light and a dark for my four patches. Look at this. I take them, place them right sides together, then go ahead and cut. I love using this small 4.5-inch ruler from Creative Grids. I love this little tool because it's perfect for the size that I'm working with, and I'm gonna use the rotary cutter to cut. I'm gonna follow the measurements in my pattern, and the measurement says 1 1/4. The edge is really nice, so I don't need to trim. All that I have to do is place my ruler right over and now cut one, and I get a second set, 2 sets. Oh, that is gonna be amazing. That means I'm gonna get a lot of nice four patches. Now notice I cut it in front of you just to show you you have leftovers in case you want to trim gently in the beginning before you cut your strip set. You have room to do that, so we give you plenty of fabric to do that. Now, as soon as you finish cutting, let me keep those pieces in front of me. All that I'm going to do is stitch right here. I'm gonna stitch using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm using a nice Orifil thread, 2310, 2313, or 2370 would work very nice. For scrappy quilts, I love to use 2370 because it hides any of stitches really nice for me. I'm going to use Macrotex needle 70, and this is gonna allow me to have really nice stitches. So once I stitch, the next step, I'm going to open the piece, the strip set, and push my seam allowance towards the dark right here, towards the dark, just like this. As soon as I do that, I can go ahead, set this on my cutting board. If I need it, I can trim right here at the beginning. So let me trim. I like to line my line from my ruler with the middle, with the seam. Okay. Oh, this looks really nice. And I'm gonna trim it. All right, now I have a perfect beginning, and as soon as I trim again, I'm gonna measure 1 1/4 because those gonna be my strip sets, 1 1/4, just like this, because our strips were 1 1/4. And second one, again, there would be a little leftovers right there. Perfect. So now I have 2. I'm gonna turn this around, and now it's gonna be time to place it right sides together, match beautifully in the center. I'm gonna take a pin. I like my glass head patchwork pins. They work so nice, and I'm gonna pin it. I like to pin it right behind my seam. So as I'm stitching, I'm gonna come up to that area. I also gonna put a second pin right in front of it, because as I'm start stitching and coming here, I don't want this to turn over the seam allowance and bundle up under there. I'm gonna start stitching, pull my pin, finish stitching, pull the second, of course, and now I have a beautiful 4-patch. Once I finish my 4-patch, I'm gonna go ahead and square them up. In my patterns, I always give you unfinished measurements for the units. If there is not unfinished measurement someplace, just contact us at laundrybasketquilts.com, because we love helping you. And look what I'm doing. I'm gonna place my cute ruler. I'm gonna make sure that my 1-inch line are lining up with my seams, and I'm gonna go ahead and beautifully square my little 4-patch unit. Somebody recently asked me on our live show, what was the best advice that I can give for someone to want to change the quilting and improve. One of my favorite things to do is trimming, because that improved my quilting so much. Because guess what, if anything wasn't perfect, now I can trim, enjoy, or if it's still not right, at least I know exactly what I need to do when I piece the next piece to it to address the imperfection. Okay, so once you finish your cute little 4 patches, and you're gonna be making 35 of them, all that you have to do is start lining them up into rows and sewing them together, because we're gonna create the center of our beautiful quilt. Do you see? Those are the rows. So I'm lining them up, sewing them together into beautiful rows. There would be last row that it's only have 2 patches. So some of your leftovers can be used in that last row. If you don't have any leftovers, then you're gonna be making just the 2 patches for that bottom row, so that way everything fits nice, so you can set in your stars. Now let's get into stars, and I'm so excited because this month in your Little Quilts Club we have included as a little extra gift from us a cute little acrylic templates, and now with those templates you can keep making the stars and maybe make that big incredible quilt just like the one in the Grand Rapids Public Museum. That quilt also, I have a picture in our Handful of Scraps book. So if you want to use that as an inspiration and keep going, or maybe use those stars for sashing someplace else. But today we're gonna use it as a borders. Now let me show you. So next step, I'm going to be taking our blues and lights, and I'm gonna focus on one fabric at a time. I'm gonna go ahead and take one fabric, and I just pick up the top set. You can color coordinate, match to what I've done it on a cover. I'm just using this as an example. We're gonna be cutting pieces from the dark, and we're gonna be cutting pieces from the light. From our dark fabric, we're gonna cut strips, and I like to cut my strips at 1 3/4. Where this measurement came from, you can measure your template and it comes up to 1 3/4. So I'm gonna cut a strip. From that strip, I'm gonna be cutting this unit right here, this unit right here, and I cut it just by flipping the template up and down on my strip. So look at this was right here, and all that I did is use the template and flip it up and down. So I'm gonna be cutting those pieces here, and clear nice directions are in your pattern for all the cutting, and I need 4 of those units. Then I'm gonna cut this piece, the square for the corner right there, 1 3/4 by 1 3/4. Beautiful. The next thing, I'm gonna cut my light pieces. Again, I'm gonna cut a 1 3/4 inch strip, and I'm gonna do a second one. I'm gonna place them right sides together, or you can go ahead and simply place this way, then cut it 1 3/4. Take your template, flip it up and down, and start cutting. I already done this for you guys, but what is so special, look at with every cut. So I had this just like this, with from these 2 strips laying right sides together, I was able to cut 4 cuts like this, but every cut have 2 pieces in it, left and a right away, left and a right for our little star points. Then I finish by cutting a small square for the center. So now we have all our pieces beautifully cut. We can lay it out, and now one block at a time we can get right into what we love the most, sewing. And do not be afraid of the small pieces, because it's gonna be nice and fun to sew this together. You're gonna place your dark fabric with your light fabric just like this. Make sure you have a little overlap for your 1/4 inch and a little point right here overlap. If you do not know exactly where to place your pieces, as this is important, you can take your template, you can put your template right down, and you can mark the points right here for the sewing points where you need to pin to make sure that all your pieces are lined up correctly. And you can do the same thing with this dark piece. Look at, there's little holes. You can drop your pin, and you can use any pin you wanna. I'm gonna use now fabric pen because it has a nice small little ink, so I can just drop it right down, and look, now you can hardly see it, but I can see it. I have a nice little point right there, so I can know a nice little point right there, so I can know exactly where I need to match. So I would have matched this point with the point I drew with my other template. Pin it, pin it, and now let me show you. Let's get into sewing of this unit. This is gonna be wonderful. So we start by sewing this. We laid everything together. Do you see? Sew it, flip it open, and you can open your seams if you would like to, or follow the arrows in a pattern. I am following the arrows in a pattern because I'm planning to stitch in a ditch for my machine quilting on my small machine later. So I have been very picky about the pressing, and I know I'm bringing those 4 patches back to you to show you. For example, normally in 4 patches, I would have encouraged you to go ahead and open the centers. But if you open the center, the seams are not gonna be locking nicely here for you. So I wanna make sure that we have a nice locking, that everything works really nice. And also, I didn't wanna do that because I wanna stay on the lines as I'm stitching in a ditch later on when I'm machine quilting this little quilt. And also with those, I'm pushing one way because I'm gonna be stitching right here later on. So back to our beautiful star. Let's take our second point, place it right down. Look at again. Make sure you have a low overlap for your 1/4 inch overlap here, straight stitch. You're gonna keep going to repeat this to create a 4 units like this, 4 units like this. And in this low quilt, you will not have points on the stars. That is part of the design, that you are going to lose the points. That is inspired by this antique quilt. There was no points on it. I love that little cut of a point, and I wanted to mimic that in this low quilt as well. Now, once I have 4 of my units done, I'm going, first thing, put my ruler over and check if they're 1 3/4 to make sure I square them up so I can start placing them into my block. And from now, this is gonna go nice and fast because all that you have to do, lay out your pieces, make sure that you're pleased with it. And now we're gonna sew first row, second row, third row. Every time you sew your squares to your piece, you're gonna be pushing the seam allowances towards the square, towards the center, towards the squares on the corners. Sew rows together, and in no time you're gonna have a beautiful, beautiful block. As soon as you finish your block, again, you're gonna go ahead, press and square out your block. When you finish your blocks, now it's time to make few more because you need all, let me check, 14 of them. You're gonna need 14 of them for the whole quilt. We're gonna start by sewing 3 together, sew them into the center, then sew 4 together and 4 together, sew them into the top and the bottom of your little quilt for a perfect border all the way around. I hope you enjoy this little quilt class. If you have any questions, please visit us at laundrybasketquilts.com. And thank you so much for watching, and happy quilting.